Hi guys, so we can see on the border the impact of Brexit on an almost daily basis. Now, while the impact of Brexit for goods is having a detrimental effect on the economy and especially local communities that rely on trade with the EU, it is very important to remember that the fishing industry represents a very small sliver of the UK economy. Much more important are financial services, and you're going to hear an interview with Mairead McGuinness in a moment, the European Commissioner for Financial Services, and she's going to explain, now that the UK is a third country and we're seeing the impact of Brexit and the fact that the UK is a third country in regard to goods, going forward, if the UK does not have a trade deal in regard to services, which they don't have at the moment, this is going to be detrimental to the UK economy. So let's hear what she had to say.
Well, remember, we didn't move anywhere. We're within the European Union. The United Kingdom have moved in quite a significant way with the vote in 2016. What we are doing as an EU 27 is ensuring that our financial system is fit for purpose for the future. We clearly want and desire a relationship with the United Kingdom. We have it already. In the last moments of last year, we agreed a cooperation and trade agreement.
So, yes, there was an agreement on the trade and cooperation. So in regard to trade, there is an agreement. Now, even though there is a disaster at the border, there is an agreement on tariffs. So there are zero tariffs. So that's something positive, even though it's a disaster at the border. Can you imagine what it'd be like if there was no deal?
Really positive. But even there, as you see, there are difficulties because the reality of being a third country has come home to roost, if you like. On financial services, we're not moving. We will move in a way which strengthens our regulation. The global economy.
Now, there was a story yesterday where the European Union had added another number of countries, tax havens, to a blacklist. So the EU is not moving in the direction of lower regulation, but stronger regulation. So if the UK want to sell financial services in the EU, they will need to move to a regime of higher regulation, which actually runs in the opposite direction of what Brexiteers want.
On finance is a reality. We need to make sure that the regulation of it is fit for purpose. And I did make a very important point very recently that, we do recall the past on light touch regulation in financial services, and it did no one any favours. And we've moved away from that. We want effective regulation. And when it comes to the United Kingdom, it's very clear that London is a major financial centre. That will not change overnight. But it's also important to acknowledge that its significance was part and parcel of being within the European Union. So these are realities because of Brexit. But I do hope that when the memorandum is agreed between us, that we will then move to the detail on specifics. And I hope we can make progress and cooperate. However, and it's important to say this, there is no recreating the single market for financial services for the United Kingdom when they have decided to leave the single market.
So there's no recreating of the single market for financial services. So this is going to create problems. Now, I just want to explain here what they're talking about. So equivalence is the idea that foreign entities, foreign companies can provide financial services in your country. So if your country provides equivalence, then foreign companies can provide financial services, for example, in your country. If the EU, for example, don't provide equivalence, that means that, for example, in the case of the UK, they can't provide financial services in the EU. And of course, the City of London needs to provide financial services in the EU. And you can see here, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you can see here, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out yourself. But this is from PwC. They say here, for example, granted by the UK, granted by the EU, and you can see yes, 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 no, 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 until June 21. This is CSDR. So in this case, the Bank of England will assess CSDs in the EEA for recognition, subject to establishing cooperation agreements with the relevant EU authorities. temporary equivalence has been granted to UK CSDs until June 2021. But you can see it's mainly no all the way down. So the UK is providing equivalence to the EU, but the EU is not providing equivalence to the UK, which means that the UK will need to sit down with the EU and agree a deal on equivalence. Now, getting away from equivalence for a moment, let's have a look at some of the other issues that are affecting financial services. So a major chunk of trading in EU-dominated shares has been moving from London to European continental exchanges since the UK left the EU, the European Union single market. And the two sides are now heading towards uncharted confrontation over the future of European finance. Financial services weren't covered by the post-Brexit trade deal, as we know, struck just before Christmas, before the UK and the EU. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has admitted that the deal perhaps did not go as far as he would like on the matter. That's a little bit of an understatement there. You know, once again, trading goods is important. Trade in financial services is much more important to the exchequer. Okay, it's important. Like trading goods is important for jobs, for local communities, for society in general. But when it comes to the exchequer, trade in financial services could be in a way much more important. UK financial service providers and banks lost on the 1st of January the so-called passport that gave them the right to operate without restrictions throughout the EU, and now depend on unilateral decisions from European authorities to extend them an equivalence decision based on the regulatory convergence sector by sector. So instead of the EU providing this type of equivalence, the UK has to go to individual countries and say, can you give us equivalence? The problem with that is that it creates a lot of bureaucracy. And of course, you know, if you're a financial service provider in London and you want to export your service to Austria or to Germany or to France or to Italy or to Spain, you have to make an agreement with those individual countries. And that's creating a headache for those companies, because you have to spend time and money to get up to speed on how they work. And of course, the equivalences may be different. Billions worth of shares trading has moved from London to exchanges set up in Amsterdam and Paris to the tune of £6 billion a day. £6 billion a day and once again, you're not reading about this in the newspapers. Why is this not front page news? Why is there this focus on fish? £6 billion a day has been transferred from exchanges in London to Amsterdam and Paris. That's money that cannot be recovered. That's, you know, there are taxes to be paid on that, and that's not going to be collected. When at the same time Rishi Sunak is talking about, well, you know, we can't pay poor children their free meals because it's expensive. Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey told the UK lawmakers on the 6th of January that he did not expect quick equivalence decisions from the EU, but insisted that the country should not become a rule taker by mimicking EU regulations just for the sake of obtaining an access to European markets. Once again, I understand the idea of not taking the rule, but if you want access, then you have to follow the rules. There's no way around that. Professionals of the City of London quoted the Financial Times said that they did not expect an agreement on financial services to be struck before a few years. The time for EU authorities to assess how much of London's business will move to the continent. This is damaging to the UK economy. This is the hidden part of Brexit. This is the part of Brexit that you don't hear about in the newspapers. And once again, because Boris Johnson didn't have a trade deal, it means that a trade deal on financial services, it means that this will have to be agreed later on. You can't get away from this. I just wish the government were more transparent on all of this. But of course, they're Tories, so they will not be. Let me know in the comments section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?